Do you ever get prospects that hop on the sales calls and they're being vague? They're like, yeah, listen, I'm doing good already. I just want to see what you guys have. Or, hey, listen, I'm doing good. I just want to see what's out there, what you guys have to offer. And you just can't quite get the answers you need to get. The problem you're trying to find, why is this person here? And typically what happens at the end, they go, yeah, that sounds good. I'm just going to keep looking around. Let me just think about it. I'll get back to you. And they go disappear into the ether. You ever have that happen? So in this video, we're going to go over how to handle those vague prospects, how to pre-handle it, prevent it from happening in the first place. And if you do get those vagueness, what to do, what to say, how to say it, why you're saying it. If you're new to the channel, my name is Brian Choi, and I was a former #2 closer at 7th Level, which is one of the go-to sales training companies in the world. And I made 228K USD commissions in my first full year in sales. So if you're a high-ticket closer in the high-ticket space, wanting to increase your commissions, this channel's for you. Let's get to it. So in order to find solutions, we first got to go into identifying a problem and then find the root cause of why the problem is happening in the first place. That's how we fix it, right? Because I don't want to just give you like this random gimmicks, but we're going to go over like what's causing it. That way you can actually think for yourself and be able to problem solve. So typically what causes those vague prospects, they're not really opening up much. They're being vague. They're saying, I'm doing all good, all this kind of stuff, is different reasons. There's also a sales process and there's a sales skill set. Okay. So sales process is something that not many people talk about, which is what is happening outside of the sales calls that is causing these different things and how you can do preventative measures from happening in the first place. In this case, typically what happens is that is lack of indoctrination in the sales and marketing process. What do I mean by that? So typically what happens is, let's say a prospect sees an ads, they see a 10-minute VSL, or they may not even see it. They just watch maybe like 30 seconds of it. They book the call. They somehow show up. And then on the call, they like, yeah, listen, I just saw the ad. Like, what do you guys have to offer? How much is it? So at that point, it kind of makes sense that they're being either quote unquote rude, they're being vague, or they're not opening up because, oh, they don't fucking know you. They don't know you. They don't know you as the company. They don't know about the brand. They may not be even aware of what problem they have and what solutions are out there. So in that case, there's things you can control and there are things you cannot control. So only thing we can do is the things we can control, right? So we don't want to make that as an excuse. It's like,
I couldn't help that person overcome that objection. I couldn't help that person overcome that vagueness because it's the marketing or this.
No, as sales professionals, we take ownership of like, what can we do? How can we fix it? So what can we do is this. We can communicate with the marketing team or your sales manager and bring that up as feedback, okay? Hey, listen, so oftentimes, prospects hopping on, they're being vague. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea what we do. And maybe they're not even showing up. So how can we, or what can we do to make sure they're better educated on the problem, the solutions, and what we do as a brand? So you're going in from like a solution providing frame, right? So that's what you want to do. A lot of salespeople in the industry, especially in high ticket, people are just like, oh, this sucks. This doesn't work, And they're just providing problems. The thing with that is, whether it be your sales manager, your business owner, whoever is in the business, no one wants to get more problems in their life. People have enough problems in their life already. So if you're being another person that's adding more problems, they just don't want to help you. It becomes a lot more harder for you to move up in the company. And it's just in your life in general. How does it even help just fixating on the problem? We want to identify the problem, but once we do that, we want to go quickly into solutions. Now, from that point, what can we do from our end? Is you can send something called a pre-meeting material email. So what that basically includes is mainly 1 to 2 long-form pieces of content that's going to indoctrinate the prospect. What that basically means is basically warming them up. Okay. So typically, when I was full-time selling, the first one I usually like to send is around like a 30-minute presentation, right? 30 minutes to an hour of the influencer going over the problem that the avatars have, right? For example, if you're selling BizOp, why are people broke, right? Why are not making money? And why what you've tried in the past, maybe you tried drop shipping, you tried SMMA, why that didn't work, and how our solution is different and why it works. So that's educating them. And, oh, that makes sense. Why what I've tried in the past didn't work and why this will be different. Let me kind of check that out. And the second link I send them is a client case study video, preferably similar to that prospect's situation and problem. So as an example, if you are selling Airbnb coaching offer, there's different types of avatars you may be dealing with. The first type of avatar is someone in a 9 to 5, brand new to Airbnb. They have no idea how to do it, spanking new. And the other type, maybe they started their Airbnb business, they have some experience, but they really want to scale. They're kind of stuck in a specific thing within that business. So if someone's brand new, like a 9 to 5, then you may be better off sending them of, hey, Sally, who's also in a 9 to 5, had zero experience, but learning our XYZ Airbnb formula, got the step by step, got the 10 grand a month, now spending more time with their children. So if you send them that, what it does, like, oh, okay, so she was going through a similar situation. I think this works, and this is what's helped them. So it gives them more certainty, which also increases show up rate as well. And also pre-handle some of the objections before the sales call. Okay. Now, our job is to try to get like a layup on the sales call, but these little things help. So once you do that, that's even better. Okay. And as a side note, too, if you can get the marketing team to get the organic content going, if your team's not doing it already, like organic long form content, like YouTube podcast, that even helps even better. Okay. So that's the sales process side. Now let's go into the sales skill set side once they hop on the sales call. So let's go into the preventative measures once they're on the sales call. So as an example, typically the things I see whenever someone says like, hey, like I'm getting like vague answers, I listen to that person's call. It just sounds scripted. As an example, so the person asks them a question and the prospect answers and the salesperson goes, got you. And awesome. Oh, good stuff. And you ask them a question. Now, I want to ask you a question. If you ever do that, do you talk like that with your best friends or your family members? Probably not. Because in an actual real life normal conversation, what happens? It's a ping pong back and forth, right? You say something, they say something. Oh, da 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 da. It's like back and forth. That's how real conversations sound like. You're probably not going, got you. And you know what I mean? So that's one example. Another example is just kind of recapping what the prospect's saying. So as an example, if the prospect says like, yeah, so it's been, I don't know, it's been, I've been doing that for like 2 years. Oh, so what I'm hearing is you've been doing that for 2 years? Yes, they literally just said that. Right? So it's a misconception for the traditional sales industry where it's good to quote unquote mirror. You don't want to mirror on just random stuff because that doesn't do anything. In the traditional sales world, they say like, oh, it builds rapport, you're listening, da da da. No, it just sounds like a salesy thing because they literally just said that thing. When you do recap or repeat what they said, quote unquote mirror, is when you're trying to probe into an emotional problem or emotional goal and a means to actually get them to expand on it. As an example, if the person said, yeah, it's been exhausting. Exhausting? Yeah, it's just like, I've been driving trucks for like 16 hours a day on the road. So it's got to serve a specific purpose, not to just like randomly do it. So when you're reading something from a book or you're reading something from a mentor or a course, like I really highly advise you to not just do it, but like, hey, why am I doing this thing? You got to understand the purpose behind it. Otherwise, you're just a parrot. And if an unexpected situation happens, quote unquote, now you don't know what to do. So that's what you got to understand the purpose. So that's typically what causes it. And also another thing that causes it in your sub communication. When I say sub communication, it's something outside of your verbals, exact the words themselves. So as an example, your facial expression, your tonality, a big thing for me, what happened was because I come from Korea, I was born and raised there, and we don't have much facial expression in our day-to-day conversation. And so what I noticed was prospects say to me in multiple different instances that, hey, you just seem very disinterested. I'm like, oh, I'm not disinterested, but the person thinks I'm disinterested. So what's happening? So I realized like, oh, my facial expression, I have no expression. So there's different ways of fixing that. Okay. Another thing is maybe in your tonality, you just sound not interested. So as an example, in the beginning question, when you can ask is like, yeah, do you know what you're looking for when it comes to what you want out of a business? So you want to have more of a curious tone. But what I found that a lot of people, they have like, oh yeah, do you know what you're looking for when it comes to what you want out of a business? So when you do a downward inflection like that or neutral inflection, it just seems like you're not that interested. There are times to do a downward inflection, yes. But when questions like that, you want to have a more curious tonality. Do you know what you're looking for? Because when you have that, what triggers in the prospect's brain is that now, oh, this person seems curious and interested. Let me just tell them what's going on. Okay. So in your tonality, in your facial expression, you want to have that, right? For example, when you're trying to find out what they're looking for, you want to have more like curious tonality in the beginning. And then towards when they're talking about a problem, you want to have more like a concern / curious. It's like, oh, exhausted? Oh, what do you mean tiring? Stuck? So when you're doing that, they're like, they want to expand and clarify because you actually seem interested. But if it's just going like, oh, what do you mean interested? They have no reason to open up to you. So we got to give people a reason to open up. Otherwise, they won't open up. Make sense? And another thing as well to make the conversation more conversational is doing something called back channeling and bridging from question to question. So I learned this concept from Jeremy Miner. So he calls it verbal cues. And then I looked it up. Common mistake I see from salespeople is that they ask a question, the prospect's talking for like 30 seconds. Salesperson doesn't say anything. They just sit there like this. And then when the prospect is done talking, they're like, okay, got you. And it just seems very scripted. Because in a normal conversation, typically what happens is your friend will be talking, right? It's like, oh, dude, I went to the bar. I met this girl. You're like, oh, dude, really? No way. Okay. I'm exaggerating here just so you get the point. You're probably not doing that 2 seconds, but you want to do it. It's something called back channel. I looked it up on Google. I was like, hey, what's that thing called when the other person's talking, but you do the and the ahas to make sure that you're listening? And according to Google, it's called back channeling. I guess it's a linguistic term. So that's basically what it is. So you don't want to do it like every 2 or 3 seconds. It's kind of annoying, but you want to do it like maybe like 7 to 9 seconds if you want to be technical about that. If the other person's talking, you're like, okay, right, sure. You want to do those kind of things, and your facial expression, you want to seem a bit more engaged. Typically, what I find a lot of people is more, they don't seem engaged more than they seem engaged. So you want to do that because what that does is you can use that back channel into bridging into your next question. As an example, you can do like, oh, how long has that been going on? Okay, what does that mean? You know what I mean? So you can like, instead of just being like, how long has that been going on? How long has that been going on? It seems more conversational, right? So because it seems conversational, people want to open up to you. Okay, so we went into basically how to prevent it from happening in the first place. So now let's go into what to do if it does happen where the prospect keeps being vague for whatever reason. The first thing you can do is just clarify. So if you ask them, like, do you know what you're looking for when it comes to XYZ? Just plug in for whatever you sell. And they say something like, yeah, man, just want to check out what you guys have. Yeah, I just want to get more info. So you can ask clarifying questions. So she's like, oh, what are you hoping to get out of the info? So you see what we did there? So in that part of the interaction, what we're trying to do here is find the desired overarching outcome of what the person wants, why the person's on the call. So if they say like, yeah, I just want to get more info, she's like, oh, what kind of outcome are you hoping to get out of the info? Then be like, yeah, I'm trying to make more money. I'm trying to get more time. I'm trying to get better leads. I'm trying to get more fits. You know what I mean? So you can ask those clarifying questions. For example, if they're being vague, like trying to get better strategies. Better strategies? Or what kind of strategies? What are we hoping to get out of the strategies? What are you trying to do with the strategies? You know what I mean? So depending on what they said, obviously it's contextual, but you can just simply use those clarifying questions to get the more tangible answer from that. Second thing you can do is lean out. So if they keep being vague, yeah, I'm already doing good, If they keep doing that, let's say you're trying to find a problem because you need to find a problem, then you can just lean out instead of just pushing, like, hey, what's the problem? Because they're going to push back more. So you just want to kind of lean out. I mean, dude, it sounds like you're crushing it. So, I mean, what has you looking for better strategies to make more money instead of just, I don't just double down on what you're doing now because it's working well. So you're doing it in that tone, right? So it's like, oh, like, dude, why not just do that? It's like genuine curiosity is like, why not just double down on this? It's working really well. So you lean out. And at that point, you may get an answer. It's like, yeah, because it's not going fast enough. Well, what do you mean it's not going fast enough? You know, the leads are inconsistent or just like the profits are inconsistent. Inconsistent? Yeah, one month's going on, 1 month is going down. How long has it been going on? Like 6 months. And what does that do? I'm just kind of stressed out. And then you can find a problem that way. Now, the third thing you can do is using an analogy to drill the point home. So as an example, if they keep being vague, yeah, listen, I'm already doing good. I already got a coach. I just want to see what's out there. Just always good to have tools in your back pocket. At that point, I like to ask, okay, have you been in a relationship or are you in one right now? They're like, yeah, I'm in one right now, or I've been one. Right. And when you were in that relationship, were you looking for what's quote unquote out there? They're like, no. Why not? Oh, because I'm loyal, And I'll say, right, because at that time you're happy being in the relationship, right? They're like, yes. And I'll be like, right, so that's what we do, right? If we're happy with something, then we don't really go look up for other things, what's out there, or just explore our options. So what's really going on, brother? So that's typical of what I'll ask. Yeah, like, what's really going on? Or what have you seen in your job that has you looking for better ways to make more money? What have you seen in your lead generation strategy that has you looking for better ways to make more money? What have you seen in your progress or results in your fitness, in your weight loss that has you looking for other ways to lose weight? So you can use those questions and you can use an analogy. The reason why analogies are powerful is that the better you get at sales, the less you need to use analogy and those fancy things. But what it typically does is it contextualizes and visualizes the concept into a thing that the person can easily reference to. So typically, weight loss example, like a fitness or like a dating analogy, those typically work well because it's like everyone can relate to. So the fourth thing you can do is pointing out the elephant in the room. So depending on the prospects, depending on the relationship you have with the prospect, depending on the offer you're on, your personality, what you can get away with, how direct you can be or less direct, it really depends. But first you start with, hey, can I point something out? Hey, can I ask you a question? Hey, something like that. And if I really want to be direct, I'll be like, are you always this vague? So I'm not going like, oh, you're always this vague? What the fuck? I'm just going like, are you always this vague? I'm just like, what's going on? And then they'll be like, what do you mean? And they'll be like, sure. And at that point, I'll just point out what's going on. Yeah, because I'm trying to understand what your challenge is or what you're trying to do, what your goals are. But all I'm hearing is just XYZ vague word they used. All I'm hearing is I just want to make more money, nothing more than that. So, that may be because of something maybe I said, right? Or something I didn't do, or because, we just met like 30 minutes ago from like stranger from the internet, which I totally get. But if we don't understand what's really going on, then there's nothing I can help you with. No one can, because if we can, we can help. If we can't, we can't. I'm here to help, but like, what's actually going on? So when you say like that, you point it out. It's like, I can sense like you're kind of being like not really opening up that much. You're being vague, which is fair enough. Like we're just strangers that met like 10 minutes ago, but I'm here to help. What's actually going on? So because when you say the intention like that, they typically open up more because intent matters. Intention matters. What's more important is that perceived intention matters. Because you could have the intention to help that person, but if they don't see that, it doesn't matter. They're not going to open up. So when they see that, it typically starts, their armor starts to fall off a little bit. And then they give you more answer. But even after all that, they're still being vague. They're not opening up, which is very, very rare. But let's say you still have to do something. Then we go to step number 5, which is a vulnerability handshake. A vulnerability handshake is in order for them to be vulnerable themselves, you become vulnerable yourself, which helps them open up. So it's a psychology concept. I think I learned it from either Chris Voss or Robert Cialdini from a book. I can't remember. But it's basically you share like a quick story or like a quick about yourself about the similar thing. Hey, so, it's fair enough because, we just met like 10 minutes ago. And vulnerability is kind of like a handshake, right? Sometimes, I got to be vulnerable myself in order for you to feel more comfortable being vulnerable yourself. When I was having XYZ problem, when I was not making enough money, then I would feel quite anxious, quite frustrated. But what about you? So you can do a quick one like that. Don't draw it out too much. You can do a quick story, but you kind of like do it like that. Because I've definitely been there. I've been in that situation. But what's that doing to you? Right? Or another thing, let's say you're trying to like get them like making 10K a month or that goal. What would that allow them to do? Right? Draw it out. But they're not opening. I just want to make more money. I just want to make more money. In that case, I'd be like, hey, listen, when I was trying to make more money, ultimately what I wanted was XYZ. Just plug in for whatever your personal story is, right? So, I really wanted to travel the world because I feel like I wasn't reaching my full potential. I really wanted to make more money because, I wanted to give my parents everything because they've done so much for me. And everyone's different, but what about for you? And when you say like that, and your sub-communication matters, right? So you use a more like nurturing tonality, if you want to call it that. Yeah, like what's going on? Like when I wanted to do that, like I want to retire my parents. I wanted to retire my son. But what about for you? Use a more nurturing tonality to help them open up. At that point, they'll be like, yeah, I actually want this. It's like a psychology thing, right? So people's like, you're being vulnerable yourself. I want to be vulnerable because you opened up. So you can do it that way as well. So dealing with vague prospects, what to do, how to prevent it is just one thing that we cover in Real Sales System, which is our sales community program. We also go over how to do upsells to turn one sale into 2 sales and 3 sales, how to generate more referrals, how to get deals from not just one call closes, but more follow-up deals, as well as how to get better with the tonality, questions, objections, all that kind of good stuff to actually increase your commissions, increase your income. So if you want to join that to see if it's for you, you can go to the first link in the description box below. Aside from that, if you're enjoying this video, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you in the next video.